Welcome. Thank you for being here. The Board of Trustees of Harris County Department of Education now convened a regular board meeting on Wednesday, September 27th at the boardroom at 6300 Irvington Boulevard, Houston, Texas at 1 p.m. I wish to extend a warm greeting to everyone present at this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As trustees, we're here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personal appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operation of the department are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, the board members received information related to items on today's agenda. The agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session in consideration of matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by Section 551.071 and 551.084, inclusive of the Texas Government Code. I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent position. Thank you for taking the time to this afternoon to join us and your interest in the Houston or the Harris County Department of Education. First thing I'd like to do is get the invocation. If Stephen Kendrick is around from Choice Partners, please.
All right. Good afternoon. Y'all hear me? Okay. Everybody, please bow your heads and your hearts. Join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for the privilege to lead all of those with us today in prayer. You said where two or more are gathered in your name, there you will be in the midst of them. We thank you for being here with us today and for all of the many blessings you have and will bestow upon us. Father, you said, ask and you shall receive, and your joy will be complete. We stand before you today and ask that your will be done today here in this boardroom as it is in heaven. You sent your one and only Son, Jesus, to earth to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Just as our elected public servants have been entrusted to serve and protect our community, and more importantly, the children Harris County Department of Education has committed to serve. We ask that you be with and guide our servant leaders so that they can accomplish your purpose and plan for the children whose lives will be forever impacted by their decisions. Your Son Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." Father, you showed through your kindness and love towards children how much you value them. Please bless our children every day and keep them safe from harm. Protect them from abuse, abduction, child trafficking, and addiction. Guard their hearts and protect their minds. Lord, we ask that today's actions and events reflect your love and desire for our children and their future. Father, we love you and put our faith wholeheartedly in you. We ask these things in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Charlotte Manning, come up and help us with the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to take, it's an open forum, and we have a list of 10, so we're going to have to be pretty stringent with our 5-minute rule. So the first person on, say again? Well, yeah, well, we have a 5-minute limitation. 3 minute, 2 minute. It's 5 minutes. Okay, I'm sorry. It's 5 minutes today. Okay, so if I can get Daniel Cohen come up.
Good afternoon, everybody.
State your name for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Daniel Cohen. I'm with an organization called Indivisible Houston. We focus on public transparency and accountability. There are a few points that I'd like to make, and I think it's something that's going to have to be discussed over time. As many of you know, a lot of the services that are brought forward by Harris County Department of Education are provided to school districts in the county that otherwise wouldn't be served. Half of the therapy services for all of the ISDs in the county are served by the Harris County Department of Education. Head Start served by the Harris County Department of Education. There are things that go on over time that make me and other members of the community who I've spoken to somewhat nervous. First and foremost, we know that at the last legislative session there were not one but two bills filed in an attempt to abolish the Harris County Department of Education. One was masqueraded under a sunset review, and one was an outright abolition bill. When the Harris County Department of Education attempted to put that agenda item onto an agenda for a meeting during that legislative session, it was marked to discuss that agenda item, and thankfully it wasn't marked that they were able to vote on that agenda item. And I say thankfully because some of the trustees that were on the board at the time really did want to vote on it, but thankfully they weren't able to. In the very next session, that agenda item disappeared because the community rallied and showed up. But it's not exactly comfortable for us to have to take time to show up every single time we think that the department's going to get abolished, because people have things to do in their daily life, and we want those education services to be there whether or not we take the time to get here. Especially considering the fact that usually it's, say, 1 o'clock on a weekday, or most of the other times that Harris County Department of Education meetings have been held in the past, is not exactly an opportune time for working families and the families of the kids who most need the services that are provided by the Harris County Department of Education are able to show up. They're not necessarily here to be able to speak. So I guess what I'm saying overall is make sure that you're defending the department. Now, in more recent matters and in more recent happening, we've seen it on the agenda that you're looking for a new attorney. One of the firms that you've mentioned is that of Kane Strahan. Another one that you've mentioned is that of Gary Polland. That makes me nervous for a few reasons, because they do have partisan interests and they've shown them before. There is a state senator in the Houston area, you may have heard of him, Paul Betancourt, who is connected to both of these folks. They know them, and in addition has talked to trustees on this board. And that makes me nervous because he's the one that filed aforementioned bills. And this makes me extra nervous because having seen the Harris County Department of Education meetings, maybe it's just my opinion, but I don't think I'm alone in this, your attorney's doing a pretty doggone good job of not only making sure that you're staying in line within your meetings, but that you would actually, I would trust her to protect you in case somebody tried to launch a charge against you as trustees. So I'm just stating the facts. I'm telling you what makes me comfortable and uncomfortable. I'm telling you the things that have happened in the past, and I'm asking you to make sure to play it straight. And if you're not playing it straight, that's a problem. If you are playing it straight, take your time to make sure to clarify exactly what it is that we're seeing in front of our own eyes. And that's what I came here to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Cohen, I have a question for you. When would you like to see the board meetings, if you had a preference?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. So let me tell you a few things that I'm going to answer your question. I'd also like to provide some alternative, even solutions beyond it, okay?
I would prefer that you just really answer the question.
Yeah, I'm going to do both, though. So the HISD meetings are in the evening. People show up for those. That's a time that you could consider. They're weekday evenings. It's not always easy. It's still hard for people to get there. And those meetings, one of the trustees actually Skypes in sometimes. If you asked me, I think you should allow constituents to Skype in. But at the very least, you could hold it at a time that's in the evening during, I guess, during a weekday might make sense, so that people can get over here and they can advocate after work. Most people are working 9 to 5 jobs. Wouldn't be perfect, but at least it would be a start. Thank you.
Next one is Colleen Vera.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Colleen Vera. I'm a taxpayer and a retired teacher, and I gave you a handout. I left it on your tables with some suggestions and questions. First is Agenda Item 6A1, the Monthly Disbursement Report, Fund 4798, Head Start in Kind. I'm really confused on how you can write checks covering in-kind donations, so I'd appreciate an explanation on that. Second, action item 7A, the E-rate equipment for Head Start. Usually the Head Start items say fully funded by the Head Start grant. This one doesn't say that, so I was just wanting y'all to confirm that it actually is covered as a Head Start grant expenditure. Next, everywhere possible, HCD has been going around claiming that you've opened the county's first public recovery high school, but Texas Education Code section 39052F reads, a school district that is not accredited may not hold itself out as operating a public school of this state. Neither HCDE nor any of your schools are accredited by the state of Texas. So I suggest this board instruct the administration to correct this misrepresentation immediately. And last, I have a suggestion for you to better manage HCD's use of public funds. Ask the simple question, will this expenditure improve the educational outcomes of students for Harris County? For example, last year you spent an average of $905 per month just to feed yourselves at board meetings. At that current tax rate, that means 900 families paid taxes that you imposed simply to cover your food at your board meetings. Did that $10,000 you spent on your food improve the educational outcomes of students in Harris County? Well, I say no. So I suggest you adopt the same procedure used by our Harris County Commissioners Court and pre-approve some types of expenditures, such as out-of-county travel, sponsorships, business meeting meals, gifts and awards, marketing and entertainment. That will allow public discussion before the act, so that you no longer have questions from the public like this one. What did writing check V143424 to Danielle Clark for the 2019 Governor's Ball do to improve the educational outcome of students in Harris County? Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Guzman?
Good afternoon, Board. I'm Diane Olmos Guzman, and I'm here to speak on behalf of restoring the department's representation in Austin, and that is mainly because our organization, the Promoters of Education, Awareness, and Community Engagement, PEACE for short, is a service provider of after-school programs during school and in the summer. And we know the need in the schools of HISD. Our organization concentrates in inner city middle schools primarily. In the East End, Navarro, Deedy, and in the North, McReynolds and Marshall middle schools. These children in these schools are not aware, parents are not aware of the after-school programs. And it is because of Harris County, the funding from Harris County Department of Education, who partners with the City of Houston and other government entities to provide these programs. Only then can these children of need get these programs. And I have to say that these children are excelling because of these after-school programs. Last year, McReynolds Middle School, which we provided robotics, we did a competition with the Harris County. They provided a competition in robotics. Out of 100 schools that signed up for this competition, McReynolds came out number 10. This is the first time that this school has had robotics, and these children excelled. So what Harris County Department of Education is doing for inner city children, it is doing great things. And I recommend and hope that you touch your hearts and allow for our representation to keep being representing the inner city schools of HISD in Austin. So please take that consideration, and I'm here speaking from the heart and passionate about education and a former HCC trustee. Thank you.
Forney?
Hi, my name's Jan Forney. I'm a parent, a taxpayer, and I love kids. I'm trying to help in the HISD school system with voter registration. I'm a member of League of Women Voters. Went out to their lobby days. One of their priorities is education. We all know, across the spectrum, we all know there's a big problem in education in this state. It's gone way downhill since my daughter went to school 10, 15 years ago. The class sizes are enormous, and our kids' needs are not being met. This last year, in the last elections, we've all recognized that together, I think, across the spectrum. We have other problems, but I liked the minister's comments at the beginning. We got to keep our hearts and souls centered. Why we're here in the first place is to serve our kids and our society and our future. So this Harris board is extremely important. One of the pillars that's supporting the educational structure for our kids. It's extremely critical that the services get out to our kids. So that's sort of what I believe should be a foundational value system for all of us, is that we're trying to get the right things to our kids and to support the teachers that are on the front line delivering it valiantly as class sizes and everything else and money's being pulled and they don't get textbooks, and we can do better. So your services that you already provide are so critical to all the ISDs. We had a big kerfluffle a couple of years ago about the special needs kids that was capped at 8%. We need money to be able to make sure each child will not only have a good future, be a contributing citizen in the society, and that's where it happens, at its ground floor while they're little kids all the way up until they're 18. You need to be doing this because we need this in our whole society. So that's a statement of principle, and then going on to the specifics that came out that I heartily endorsed, that Daniel also spoke about, were that we need unbiased legal representatives. It sounds like you've got a very good lawyer navigating how the board performs. Second, that we do need a representative going out to the ledge and advocating for good, sensible policies that are going to provide good education to all of our kids. We cannot start pulling the pillars out from underneath us. We, in fact, need to come together and strengthen them together. And then finally, support those services, Head Start, kids who have special learning needs. Those are all critical programs. That is something you can be proud of at the end of the day. If you're supporting what's really needed in this society, that's important. I understand the money aspect. Sometimes I think people are trying to kill programs, and it's a feature, not a bug, that they're basically trying to undermine the public school system and trying to divert to charters to privatize them, and for other reasons. That's what I think as a neutral observer, what's been happening. Our public school systems are a treasure that we need to support and protect. This is not a political game. This is our kids' future, and it's our society's future. These kids are going to be voters. We're going to make sure of it, and we need to make sure that they have the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to vote with. So I ask you to do your agency to support all of those things the very best that you can, and thank you so much.
Yes.
How are you doing? The Harris County Department of Education provides special education, therapy services, early education, adult education, and after-school programming. That is very important to parents that have children with special needs. I'm a mother of a child with autism. The Harris County Department of Education is responsible for about 200 children with special needs. Texas is not that supportive when it comes to providing supports and services. In fact, Texas is ranked almost last among states for supports and services for children with disabilities. As a state, we are failing children with disabilities on nearly every front. Over the past 3 to 5 years, Texas has further cut services for children with disabilities, lack of life-affirming services for children with disabilities and complex medical needs. This increases the risk of institutionalization and also preventable tragedies. Therapy cuts. For the first time in over a decade, no new waiver slots were funded in the last legislative session. Wait times have grown to 14 plus years for access to waiver services. The Harris County Department of Education provides some of these services in the schools. Right now, there are over 19 relevant and helpful bills filed to date, which will help protect children with special needs and also fragile kids. Yet, the Harris County Department of Education just voted against having someone to officially advocate for these children. Why? Why would you all vote to not have someone officially advocating and lobbying on the behalf of our children? The Texas legislature is in session. We need representation. Bring back Hilco. I want my tax dollars being used to best represent our children and also for programs that would significantly improve supports and services to children with different abilities. Texas can and must do better for our children. We cannot claim to protect life and the most vulnerable among us if we don't put our money where it matters most, and that's towards our children. Thank you.
Audrey Duhall.
Hello, board. I'm Andrea Duhan. Glad to be here today and had a lot of friends come and have a lot to say to you. And I just wanted to outline a little bit about what's really important that we need to say to you today. First, you guys voted in January to cancel the contract for Hilco. Hilco represented us, not just the board. They represented the taxpayers, and you eliminated our representation. I want representation in Austin as a taxpayer. Mike, you said specifically that it is against the, Republican ideology for tax dollars to go to lobbying firms. This isn't about Republican or Democrat. This is about our kids. Don't play political games with our public tax dollars. Support our children. Support the taxpayers. Give us representation. Bring back the Hilco contract. 2, the law firms that have been nominated to replace the current legal counsel are not education firms. They're partisan, political players. You have an unbiased education specialist who has been here longer than any of the board members, and you want to replace her with potentially Briscoe Kane or Gary Poland. They are not education specialists, and they are certainly not unbiased. Once again, stop playing political games with our public tax dollars. Keep your board attorney. And lastly, if you don't believe in public education programs being fully funded, you don't belong on this board. We want to prevent these programs from being eliminated into the future. There are a lot of allegations that are stacking up against people on this board, and I think you guys are all aware that we are watching who is voting for what. We know who is supporting these programs. In full, bring back the Hilco contract, keep your board attorney, and stop playing political games with our public tax dollars. Thank you.
Jason Oliver.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Oliver. I'm a member of the Houston Area Alliance of Black School Educators, as well as the Restorative Justice Collaborative of Houston, also organizing Network for Education Houston, which is informally known as One Houston. And I also serve as an advisory board member for one of HCDE's grants. This would be the Stop School Violence Prevention and Mental Health Training Program grant. So when I stand in front of you and I speak about these various affiliations, it's important because I sit in meetings with both campus and district teachers, administrators from across the county who I hear the requests that they make of Harris County about services such as campus safety, right? So things like school walkthroughs that are done by the Center for Safe and Secure Schools. These are incredibly valuable resources that Harris County provides for our county schools and school districts. To leave Harris County Department Department of Education without representation in Austin is to place HCDE at risk of closure. This will have a clear negative impact on the safety of Houston's children, placing them at risk of extreme violence in a time where we know these dangers are more real than ever. HCDE is one of the largest Head Start providers in our area, a program which, based on recent reports, disproportionately serves Hispanic, Black, economically disadvantaged, at-risk, and special education students. This is at a time where we see those direct populations not being served adequately by many other education providers in our county. This is incredibly important and needs to be paid attention to. HCDE without representation in Austin, so without having that representation in Austin, directly undermines resources that serve students most at risk of both racial and economic justice in our city. According to the National Institutes of Health, by the time they are seniors, almost 70% of high school students will have tried alcohol, half will have taken an illegal drug, nearly 40% will have smoked a cigarette, and more than 20% will have used a prescription drug for a non-medical purpose. The majority of those who have a substance abuse disorder started using before age 20 and developed their disorder, started using before age 18 and developed their disorder by age 20. 1 in 4 Americans who began using any addictive substance before age 18 are addicted, compared to 1 in 25 who start using at age 21 and older. So this is incredibly important as you all are looking at your recovery school. At a time when addiction is at an all-time high, when we're hearing about this opioid crisis, I hope that this board's legacy will not be the relapse of dozens of students due to inadequate support of Fortis Academy, one of few public recovery schools in the state. A 1998 study found that for every dollar spent on drug abuse prevention, communities could save from $4 to $5 in costs for drug abuse treatment and counseling. So not only does Harris County Department of Education make money by providing services to these, to the school districts around the county, they also save us money in the long end by providing these resources like Head Start and for drug recovery. I ask that a special meeting be called with an agenda item so that Hillco partners may be newly retained, providing HCD with dedicated representation in Austin. I also ask that you keep your current board attorney due to her wealth of experience and the clear lack of experience that other firms have in representing a county department of education. We need a board attorney who is both experienced and knowledgeable. As the gentleman said in today's opening prayer, children's lives will be forever impacted by your decisions. Thank you.
Josh Wallenstein.
President Flynn, my name is Josh Wallenstein. I'm a compliance attorney, and I'm also one of your constituents, and I rise today to speak about public corruption. I'm going to show you proof of collusion to veer a public contract to a trustee's political connections, to the detriment of the public's interest, and there is a clear path to this evidence based on noncompliance with your own procedures. But first, let's talk about the public's interest in duplicating legal counsel for this board. As a compliance attorney, I know how boards work. There is rarely a good reason to have a separate counsel, both for the board and for the entity it oversees, and so the decision to hire separate counsel was, to me, initially merely ridiculously wasteful. And then I started digging, and thank the Lord for public information requests, because I have all of the data right here. It appears that there is indeed the intent to act corruptly, but without the requisite intelligence to cover the tracks. Here are the facts. 14 firms submitted RFPs, requests for proposal. 2 were ultimately interviewed. Neither had any demonstrated experience or qualifications related to public education, nor past experience providing legal services to school districts. 1, I understand, has been proposed for indefinite hire, 1 or 2. 1 is run by a current member of the Texas legislature, which in turn regulates you all. Now let's look at your own vetted and approved evaluation criteria that is required of the winning candidate or candidate firm. Demonstrated competence and qualifications, past experience in providing legal services to school districts or governmental entities in Texas, and the firm's past relationship with the HCDE Board of Trustees. Okay. Let's look at Trustee Michael Wolf's evaluations. All 9 firms with any educational or governmental experience received straight zeros in every single category. The firm that currently represents this Department of Education got straight zeros. So let's look at some of these zeros. Describe your familiarity with the HCDE. 0 out of 10. They've been showing up for years. Describe your familiarity with Robert's Rules of Order. 0. They run your meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order every month. How would you advise the Board of Trustees? 0. They've been doing it for years, right? Now, I'm not advocating for this firm. I'm merely pointing out the most incompetent attempt at corruption I've ever seen. And all the other firms received the hundreds, straight 100s. 4 out of 5 of those are directly connected to partisan politics. Now, this is clearly not following the rules. Of course, you may recall that Trustee Wolf has a history of not following the rules. He was fired by the local Republican Party for not following the rules. He was censured by this very board for not following the rules. He named a public building after his mother in violation of the rules. He's been publicly accused of laundering $28,000 in campaign contributions into his personal account in violation of the rules. So I'm not surprised to see him violating the rules here. I've unfortunately found proof of collusion with Trustee Wolf. Not similar scores, absolutely identical scores from another trustee for every single law firm. This is not an arm's length transaction. This is papering over corruption. I'm a compliance attorney. Procurement procedures and criteria are meant to ensure fair, impartial decision making. When your entire evaluation procedure has been corrupted, there cannot possibly be fair and balanced evaluation that your constituents expect and that your integrity should require. And so I urge you to withdraw this RFP from further consideration. And if you choose not to do so, in the alternative, I urge you to restart this process with currently elected members of the board and with fair and impartial evaluations. Anyone voting to approve this contract award based on the corrupt results of a corrupt process is an accomplice ratifying political corruption.
Thank you, Board, for having your regularly scheduled meeting and not doing it at a time where a lot of people can't do it. I myself am a production manager, so I work at a factory. This is not convenient for me to come to these meetings, but with the corruption and the blatant trying to shut down this board, it is important to me that I come to these meetings, and every special meeting that you will announce, I will be here for it. You know, and personally, just to say this, I have to cancel meetings. I have to tell my boss that I'm not going to be here because I only get an hour lunch. So I'm already over an hour. So in order to be active and communicate the needs of what's going on, I personally have to sacrifice to come here to be here. So I would appreciate it too, that if the board were to change its time so people from the community can actually come talk. I do want to address a couple of things. Restoring the department's representation in Austin. Anyone that, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you have representation when it comes to legislation. Why would we not do that in Austin here? Especially when it's, I don't know, everyone knows it, that the legislation's trying to privatize education in Texas. And the thing I would like to say, so people that aren't really familiar with HCDE, this is one of the few entities where you are expanding education service while decreasing tax rates. That is amazing. Why are we trying to shut this down? If anything, this should be expanded and replicated across the state. This is saving people money. And you know what? With all these ISDs running into money problems, HCDE should be the one promoting itself to come in here because HCDE is a bigger body and it can negotiate more and it can do more services. You talk about education across the board, those ISDs can never negotiate the prices that HCDE can because you represent over 4 million people in one county. Almost a state. This is almost a state education if it was somewhere else. We also need to maintain the current legal representation on the board. She has been unbiased, even though there's a crusade against her. Whenever something comes to try to get her out, she is still working to make sure that things are done correctly, even though she knows it's attacking her. We also need to save the department in just general aspects. The HISDs are struggling for money already. So if this board shuts down, what's going to happen to all the low-income families, the single-parent families, the English as second language families that are affected by this? The ISDs aren't going to be able to cover that cost. So by shutting down this board, you're not going to be saving money. You're just putting the burden onto other government entities that don't have the ability to do it now. I'd also like to say for President Josh Flynn, I know that you were elected in Precinct 3, which is a Republican precinct, and you won by about 1,900 votes. I would like to remind you that now that you are president, you represent the entire county. And even though Precinct 3 is Republican, the county is blue. And the majority of Harris County citizens want public education. So when you talk to your constituents, please make sure that you're talking to all the constituents as well. And I would also like to say about that special meeting on February 11th with the PFC, if it was so important that we had to have a special meeting on February 11th, why did we end as soon as the majority was decided? We didn't go to the rest of the items in that meeting, we just stopped. So if it was that important, why didn't we continue it? I mean, you know, personally, like I said, I sacrificed to get to that meeting, and the fact that we just stopped was, you know, I didn't have to do that. And I would also like to say one more thing on this PFC. You mentioned that you wanted unbiased and people that did not work for HCDE to be on the PFC committee. Well, I've never heard of once that the superintendent or the person that runs the entity not being included on committees that are relevant and important for that board. I've never seen such blatant cronyism to the political control of a committee. I can understand to have impartiality, but typically you want people who support HCDE and not actively working to shut it down. If you want someone who is impartial, that does not work for HCDE and is not on the board, I will volunteer for PFC committee. Thank you.
Malaya?
Hello to the board. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm definitely not going to measure up to all the different people who have preceded me.
Name, I'm sure.
Oh, no
Could
worries.
You go ahead and.
Yeah, Maliel's correct, but
Thank you.
no worries. Just to echo the spirit of everything that has been said so far, and to Mr. Flynn, you know, at that last special meeting, you spoke to transparency, which is something that in conflict of interest. And I don't know you, and I know you're new to this, and I say this in genuinely good faith to you as someone who's been coming to this board and monitoring this for the last couple of years. I took you at your word. Whether we disagree, we can all disagree on the objectives we want to see, but so long as your objective, and all of our objectives, is to address, like, accomplish what is best for the people, I can deal with that even when we disagree. That's completely reasonable, and it's not fair for me to expect everyone to conform to my views or vice versa. But again, to echo what everyone has said, clearly getting rid of representation, the lobbyist, Hilco, that nobody can argue that's in the good faith of the board. Yes, it costs money, but if you care about the board's viability, that is something you would want, especially when we know Paul Bettencourt is doing everything in his power to close us down. Likewise, getting rid of existing council, and yes, points that everyone's made, with non-education-based council that do not have that type of experience, who don't have the number of years on this board and understanding how things are done, that nobody can argue that's being done in good faith, especially given that none of them were education specialists. So I just wanted to say this to you in good faith. I take your word, you ran on what matters to you, and you won, and God bless you for doing that. But if you genuinely want what's best for the board, however you just think about those things, what you campaigned on. And my last little dig would just simply say, as someone who's watched this board for several years, nothing that board member Michael Wolf does is ever in the best faith of this board. So just assume that if he's suggesting something, you probably want to do the exact opposite. Thank you for your time.
Okay, that concludes our open forum. Thank you.
I signed up too. Directly under Colleen Vera. Is there another form?
Melissa, there's not another one?
Just let him speak.
Okay. Raise of hands, who signed up but did not get to speak? Okay, we have time, and we'll go ahead and both of you. Go ahead, sir. And please tell me your name so I can write you down.
Sure. My name is Amari Mercado. That's A-M-A-U-R-Y. Last name Mercado, M-E-R-C-A-D-O. I do apologize. I'm a little bit nervous. So I'm here advocating on behalf of myself and also all the single parents out there, moms and dads that aren't able to be here to just to voice their opinion because they have to work. I do agree that it should be, this meeting should be done at a more convenient time. But anyway, so I went to public school. I went to LLPU. I went to McGranos Middle School on the east side. And I understand that Pew Elementary has a Head Start program there. Is that correct? So I don't want those programs to be taken away. These people, low income constituents, they deserve to have those services provided to them. What else? I'm a little bit nervous. And just basically, sorry. So I'm also here to make sure, we keep all this Head Start programs, maintain current representation in Austin by rehiring Hilco. Also maintaining the board attorney, and basically that's it. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon. My name is David Jennings, and I'd like to address a couple of agenda items from today's agenda. Agenda item 7B, which is the legal services vendor. I do support this change. I think that it is good public policy to replace your legal and auditing firms every 3 to 5 years or so. It's simply good public policy. That's not against this current board attorney, but it is good policy to have a fresh set of eyes on your books and on your legal opinions. So absolutely, I support that, your effort in that area. Agenda item 7C, I support that change as well with the Public Finance Corporation. Agenda item 7H. This really seems like a silly thing to address. It's $900, a recognition dinner for high school principals. I mean, the board has far more important things to do than that, I think, and certainly it's a legitimate use of taxpayer funds to recognize government employees from time to time. And to answer a question earlier, yes, it actually does help the children of Harris County in their education when they have motivated employees. Off of the agenda, overall, I agree and like the direction the board is taking since November, I guess, when the board changed a little bit. I like the aggressiveness and transparency and accountability. And I want to thank you for getting rid of the paid professional lobbyist in Austin, Hilco. And I think it is immoral to spend taxpayer funds to give to a professional lobbyist to wine and dine our elected officials. And I want to thank you for getting rid of that contract. Thank you.
Now that concludes our public open forum. And so now we'll start with the reports and the superintendent. James Kolbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've got a quick little PowerPoint that we're going to pull up. 4 things I'd like to highlight that have happened over the past few weeks. First, we had an article come out in one of the community newspapers talking about the work that's being done at Fortis High School, Fortis Academy. But the new county judge gave us a shout out on Twitter and really wanted to celebrate the success that we're having with those students. In the article, it talked about how we are taking adolescents and teaching them the art of culinary arts, hopefully that they can aspire to pursue that profession as they work towards sobriety. We also had just this last month our early childhood winter conference where we had over 1,000 participants. I believe Trustee Norris was able to attend that. This is the second largest conference for pre-K teachers in the entire state of Texas. It is massive. We even have teachers come over from Louisiana. They come from every corner of the state. We had a speaker there, always an entertaining speaker who sometimes drags even our cabinet members on stage. I believe Mr. Parker was dancing at that conference last year, which I missed. I would have loved to have seen that. But certainly, tremendous amount of show up this year. Last year, I think we had a little bit over 900 participants. This year was over 1,000. Also, what we have going on this month is our Scholastic Arts and Writing Awards are going on right now. Currently, let me get my glasses on. We are on display, work is on display at the Spring Street Studio and also at the Texas Art Supply where you can go out there and check out some of the work. If some of the trustees remember, several kids advanced onto the national competition last year, and I believe Dr. Moore and Trustee Dick assisted in their travels so they can be able to participate in that ceremony. There's no question that we have exceptionally talented students in Harris County, and Harris County Department of Ed does a really good job in trying to celebrate their success. I like to point out that the last two things that I just spoke about with the Early Childhood Conference and our Scholastic competition is ran by Mrs. Seagraves. Can you please stand and be recognized? Look, she doesn't want to stand. Give her a hand. I'm a former athlete, so I'm competitive, and I always want Texas to represent at a national level and bring home the gold. Finally, our case department is got two things going on this month. EcoBots Challenge. I believe one of the people who spoke earlier, I think your son or grandson participated in that. It's a large event, but I can tell you we're looking for volunteers. Now, I'm not going to be one of them because I typically roam through the crowd, but certainly if any of our board members or any of our other staff would like to volunteer, it's something that's really cool. We have elementary, middle school students from all over the county participate in this, and it's really exciting. A number of corporations also support this initiative, and it's been going on for some time. What you see on the right side is Case Debates, which is an initiative that we started probably about a year and a half ago that goes through our CASE program, where we take students who learn to debate against the Houston Urban Debate League. Very, very talented and bright young people that do an excellent job with that. And it's my understanding that they have a competition this Saturday at the federal courthouse. So that's something that you may want to look into also. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. I'm going to take a break here for acknowledgement of one of our past presidents. Sitting up here for the last hour, I feel a little bit hot seat here, and I'd like to just stand up and say congratulations and thank you so much for your years of work, Lewis Evans. And if you'll come up here, I've got a little thing that I want to give you, along with your photo that's been lined up for. Let me come around. Let me come around.
That's in case you forgot what you look like, Mr. Evans.
Okay. And then let's on with the reports. If I can get Richard Vela.
Department of Education trustees. We appreciate the opportunity to be here today to present our maintenance and operation and construction report to you. I want to thank Julie Smith, who is in the audience here. She's my administrative assistant who has helped us get this report together, and I appreciate all the efforts that she had put together for this. I also, with new board members, I also asked that I have my directors over the maintenance and operations and construction to be here today, and I thought it would be good to have a face with a name. So I asked John Prestigiacomo and Joe Carrion to be here, and JP is, or I call him JP, that's what we call him. John's going to give you a brief report on the maintenance and operations side, and then Joe will come up and give you his side on the construction projects.
First, I'd like to say I'm very proud of our maintenance and operations staff. They work extremely hard every day, and this past year is no exception. Last year, our maintenance group completed over 3,600 work orders, and at this building, our crew here set up over 3,100 meetings that accommodated almost 90,000 attendees. We've also updated the first floor restrooms by adding fresh coats of more modern colored paints to not make it look so dated. At Fortis Academy, our maintenance crew installed 120 LED light fixtures to help with energy efficiency and reduce ongoing maintenance costs. We also repainted the entire gym to match the school colors. At High Point East, due to concerns from the tight bus turning radius at the entrance gate, we had the lane widened by 2,300 square feet. At ABS East, we had the rocky back area of the parking lot black-topped and striped, which added 60 parking spaces. We've also improved the landscaping there by adding sod in muddy areas and pruning and shaping the trees. Up for this coming year, we have several projects planned. Here at this building, we will have the third floor restrooms renovated to more closely match the look of the other the restrooms on the other floors. We're also looking at other painting improvements throughout the interior and exterior of the building. At High Point East, we'll be completing campus-wide landscape upgrades and improvements. At our Westview location, we are currently adding the HCDE logo to the interior of the entrance lobbies. And at one of our adult education buildings, we will be conducting a building analysis for ADA purposes. And lastly, we'll continue to collaborate with construction on a replacement improvement plan for our buildings and assets. Joe.
All right. So in your packets, we've got the construction schedule of completed projects for fiscal year. We've got Fortis Academy kitchen, the outdoor pavilion, the Tidwell Head Start kitchen. Here's a picture of the kitchen at Fortis Academy. And just a little history, I started here in August of 2018 and hit the ground running, and this was my first project. Very proud of completing this. Here's the outdoor classroom for Fortis Academy. Tidwell Head Start kitchen. Some of the things that we've been doing is working with the maintenance department of coming up with innovative and non-invasive ways to do some of these repairs. And we repaired the sidewalk here in front of 6300 with polyurethane foam. So instead of replacing the entire concrete, we just lifted it up to eliminate trip hazards. Doing a lot of asset preservation, taking care of all this water infiltration. Here's some of the active projects that we've got going on. We've got the Baytown Head Start new school. Some progress pictures. ABS West renderings. Just to kind of give you a perspective, an idea of what the school is going to look like here in 10 months. Another project that we've taken on in conjunction with maintenance is getting rid of some of these old freight containers. These are at the High Point East campus. And so we were able to get a rebate back for the scrap value of these, so we reduced the cost of this project significantly. And some of the upcoming projects have got a number of energy efficient building analysis for ABS East, 6300 Irvington, the Conference Center. So we're kind of taking a look at where we're spending our dollars for utility bills. Another project that we're doing is roof repairs on a lot of these buildings. So it's very important to keep the water and moisture out of these buildings, and that's kind of where we're focusing here. And I'd like to turn it over to Rich Vela.
That's kind of a brief overview of the maintenance operations and construction. I know there's a little bit more detailed report in your packet, but we appreciate the opportunity. We're working really hard to do catch up on some of the capital improvement projects that we feel are necessary. So at that time, is there any questions that we can answer for you?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I want to say thanks for all the good work you are doing and looking through the brochure. Y'all are tackling a lot of good projects. But the one area that I'm kind of concerned about is safety of our kids. And other than fencing, I don't see really anything related to fencing, related to kids' safety or of our students. So you don't have to answer that today, but I just wonder if you've got anything planned in the future, considering all the shootings that have occurred, everything that has occurred, and I want to make sure that our kids are as safe as can be.
We are working on that. We have changed a job description that we had in the construction side of things to more look at the environmental safety side of things as far as the buildings, and we're getting involved with that. We're actually having some training with them towards safety playgrounds. He's getting certified as a safety playground specialist, but we're also looking on the inside interior to be with our safe and secure schools to look at what are options for us that we have with our current buildings and what we can do with them and use technology as well as see what we can do without being an extreme cost at that point to change up some of the areas of the schools and to become more safer.
I'd like to add something. Also, I would say, Trustee Moore, that first of all of our campuses have a school resource officer on them. And there's a number of layers of security that you need to go through just to get access to our students. Almost all the campuses, as we talked about before, we were putting fencing and trying to update that, but you can't even drive your car onto some of the campuses unless you go through security measures to get there. And then once you get to the front door, you can't get inside the building unless you're buzzed in. Or you have like My ID or something, you can scan that. So those are some of the layers. And then we're taking into consideration other training models. Our Safe and Secure Schools Division this year did extensive training with our campus level administrators. So we're very conscious of that. We need to be able to keep unwanted people from coming on our campuses. But because of the uniqueness of our campuses, we also need to be able to keep students from leaving, and trying to maintain the safety of them also.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jeff Drury.
If I can make a quick comment, Mr. Vela.
Yes, sir.
I know we have a contract with the Harris County Sheriff's Office, and I just wanted to, remind you that that's a resource. I know the Sheriff's Office and other law enforcement, they're always willing to collaborate to do some of these trainings, and they'll do it for free if you just reach out and work with them on that.
And I don't mean to interrupt Jeff's time or anything, but we are working on taking the schematics of our drawings, and we're working with the precincts that are involved with these schools, along with the Head Starts, to be able to give them the opportunity to have access in the event of an incident. We have multiple different precincts that respond to different locations. So we're working on schematics with that. We are in talks with Mr. Bowman. He is working. There are some legal things that he's trying to work on to try to have those officers that we talked about here as well as Westview. And so we're trying to make sure we can get that. That's an 80-20 contract. With some concerns of his is that if there's the officers that are here or at Westview, if they're gone for the day or they're sick, they don't replace them. So at the schools they do, but at this location they would not. So we're taking that into consideration as well.
Go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Superintendent, HCDE leadership team, and gentlemen on the HCDE Board of Trustees. My name is Jeff Drury. I'm here to tell you a little bit about Choice Partners, who we are, where we've been, where we're going, kind of what we do. This slide is a little bit about what we're going to cover, mission and vision, org chart, some of the trends, challenges, marketing efforts, and future plans of what we're going to do within our division. Basically, our mission and vision as Choice Partners, as a national purchasing cooperative, is to provide quality legal contract solutions to help our members and our vendors increase their efficiency and effectiveness in their day-to-day operations. We basically develop the contracts, execute the contracts, and award them, and let them be used by our members to have them increase their effectiveness in their procurement process to procure goods and services. Without going very much further, I'd like to have our Choice Partners group, I think they're all right here in the back row, or back couple of rows, stand up and kind of give them a quick hand. These are the folks that make the rubber meet the road. They're the ones that write the contracts. They're the ones that do the billing. They're the ones that talk to the vendors all the time, talk to the members all the time, thousands of members, hundreds and hundreds of vendors. They basically keep the car rolling, keep it on its tracks. So I'm the head cheerleader. They do a tremendous job. Some of the goals that we have as Choice Partners, being the Enterprise Fund, we're trying to generate revenue for HCDE to help fund a lot of the programs for the kids in and around Harris County. Obviously, we want to pay for ourselves and send money back. We want to be a subject matter expert, provide superior customer service, and be an industry leader. Basically know what we do better than everyone else out there. Whoops. Native Houstonian, everybody knows this picture. This didn't happen necessarily in the past year, but it has, it's been a tremendous issue with Houston, we all know, but within our little world at Choice Partners, it's been a nice, I hate to even use that word, but financial boon as people are trying to get back, cities, counties, school districts, things like that. They know who we are, they know Sarah, they know that her reputation, ISDs, boards, things like that across the area. They know our contracts, and they're able to go work with FEMA and do things like that and get back quicker than going through a long, elongated RFP process to get back up and going. We'll talk about that, a little bit of the financial impact in the next slide. But our members, last year we added 126 new members, of which about a third, 34%, were school districts, followed by what we call government entities, which is kind of a catch-all, another number of other areas, followed by city and county. This is my favorite slide. If there's one thing you take away from our presentation, this slide right here, if you notice, our expenditures stay flat. They've basically been flat for the past 4 years. The bar on the far right is fiscal year 19 year to date for 5 months. But look at the revenues. We've been able to basically, this group back here has been able to do more with less over the past 4 years, past 5 years. They're a great group. They're doing a tremendous job. And you see a little bit of that Harvey effect there at the end, with 5 months equaling all of last year on that far right bar. Challenges. People, I think there are probably people that think we wake up in the morning and people want to do business with us. We're fighting people from small ESCs, education service centers, that are kind of forced to try and find ways for income improvement, to large for-profit entities based on both different coasts, and they can throw money at co-ops and I mean at working with our members and vendors like we could never dream of. We're in a constant battle all day, every day. We're always fighting foes larger and smaller than us on a very, very regular basis. Some of the marketing efforts, I'm not going to read them all, but we're attending conferences, we're having orientations, members, vendors, we're traveling on a very regular basis, press releases, a very active website, and we're probably well over 80 events on any given year in and around Texas and other areas. Future plans, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, looking at vendors, contouring vendors. We have dead wood at times we want to get rid of and bring new ones on, add members and just continue growing, just basically same blocking and tackling we've been doing for a long time. With that, I would like to answer any questions, address any comments.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On your revenue and expenditures, I want to congratulate you for increasing your revenues and reducing your expenditures. But of that, of this last year or the last 2 years, outside of Harvey, what increase, what percentage of that increase is due to new customers versus just customers buying more?
That's a very good question, and we don't have a perfect way to carve that out. What I think is going to happen, not what I think, what I know is going to happen, is we continue to add members. We continue to hone our vendor list and our contract list. Is we're going to revert to the median, revert to the norm, if you will, somewhere down the way. Once this big Hurricane Harvey surge, Hurricane Harvey bubble leaves. But the one thing I would like to refer you to, Dr. Moore, is that for 14, 15, 16, and 17, there was a natural increase already. Just a small part of 17 and some part of 18 are due to the Hurricane Harvey surge. And but one of the other things is that we've had a tremendous luck dealing with a lot of the FEMA and compliance with 2 CFR 200, things like that. And we're having people come to us that are hearing about the compliance, hearing about the contracts, and ask Sarah questions and things like that. That we've been some of the few people that have been able to get money back from FEMA, as opposed to some of the other co-ops out there that haven't been as lucky because their contracts may not have been written as well as ours. So,
thank you.
Anything else?
Quick question, what does it take, what are the basic criteria to become a member and also to become a vendor?
The member is basically within the state of Texas. The statute reads that you do have to fill out an interlocal agreement unless you're a not-for-profit entity. We have not-for-profits also. So if you're a governmental entity, an LGE, we refer to them, they fill out an interlocal agreement, which is an agreement bind between two government entities, HCDE and another one. There's no time limit, there's no cost, there's nothing like that. Basically saying we are able to use your contracts that you have gone through the evaluation process and awarded. Out of state, it is a touch and go scenario. We kind of leave it to whatever your governing body says, whether you do require an ILA or you don't. We have all those forms, fillable PDF forms for all the various entities out of state to fill out also. And sometimes people in the same state, some people will fill one out, some won't. In the state of Texas, it's a requirement. So did you only ask about members or the okay, vendors is how long do we have? Vendors is a very thorough evaluation process. We go through, basically follow the guideline of the state of Texas to evaluate vendors and award the vendors. We are currently probably about 750 or 800. Some months, as you guys see our agenda items, we may add 30, 40, 50, 60 vendors. And there may be some months where some fall off or we call them basically due to inactivity. So it's a very thorough process, and vendors usually know that they've been through the ringer once they've been awarded by us.
For the info.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Are there any board reports that need to be discussed? Okay.
I don't have a report, but I just wanted to take this time to share my appreciation to all the members of the public that came out to express your opinions and share your thoughts with us as a board. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to come express your views. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jesus, or Dr. Jesus Emesqua?
Mr. Summers, though.
Yeah, it's not. Nothing there.
Hello, the first report is the financial highlights as of January 2019. These are the highlights in the budget amendment report. All our information is posted on our website. Our balance sheet as of January 31st, we have assets of $39,211,233, liabilities of $1,723,363, total fund equity and appropriated fund balance of $39,211,233. Our fund balance as of January 31st is $28,990,648, of which $128,000 is non-spendable, non-restricted, $2,014,976 committed, $9,499,397 assigned, and $17,348,239 as unassigned. Several of our financial ratios, this is as with data for the first 5 months of the year, and we have a ratio of percent of fund balance to expenditures ratio. We're at 92%, where last year we were at 85%. Working capital ratio of 37 million versus 33 million of last year. Unassigned fund balance ratio of 49% versus 47% as of this time. And our debt to income ratio at 9% versus last year at 11% at the same time frame. Tax revenue to total tax revenue ratio, we're at 29% versus 36% a year ago. Indirect cost ratio we're at 2%, the same as last year. Our fee-for-service ratio, we're at 20% versus 22% of the same time of last year. And our growth ratio, we're at a positive 9%, where last year we were at negative because of the Harvey impact a year ago. These are the amendments that the board has approved in the last 3 months. Revenues, budget to actual, year to date, as of the 5th month of the year, or 42% of the year that has lapsed, we received 52% of our revenues in the general fund, 24% in special revenue fund, 74% in the debt service, total cumulative of 44% from received or billed versus our budget. This is our running total for our amendments. Every time that we do an amendment, we just keep a running total of our revenues and appropriations. Our expenditures year to date, we're at 42%, and that's on a linear budget. We're at 38% in the general fund. Special revenues at 43%, and overall we're at 39%, again, below our spending rate than 42%. So it's always good that the rate of spending is not as much as in a linear situation. Our donations for the month of January, we didn't have any cash or in-kind donations, but year to date we are at $22,294.84. Our values, we're at, as of the month of January, we're at 450 billion. We had projected 451 billion. So the certified has been at 447 billion. So there's still 2.8 billion left for certification between now and the end of the year, or rather reviewed by the Appraisal Review Board. Our collections year to date, and last month we had not received a lot of tax revenues. This month is the first month that is that we receive our tax revenues for the current tax. So year to date we are at 13,280,936, or 50% of our budget. Our delinquent tax is minus 68,617 because we have made some refunds to taxpayers that requested some refunds. So the tax office has processed those. And so overall, we are at 13,259,152. Payments to HCAD and tax office of $414,418 year to date. Our disbursements for the month were $5,418,570, 524 checks, 443 transactions, and 8 transfers. And the detail is also posted and attached to your packet. Segment information for the 5th month of the year. For educator certification, we're at minus 137,306. Records management, 102,010. Some of those revenues will come in later on in the summer and in the spring as well. School-based therapy, minus 718,702. Schools, minus 1,275,830. Choice partners, we are at 79% of the benefit ratio, so the transfer has been 3,980,882. Typically, for the whole year, the transfer is $2 million. So as of the 5th month, we already at 3,980,882, and that should be a record year for choice. Amendments, there's no amendments in the general fund. The only amendments are in the special revenue fund or grants, totaling $783,248. The first one is for EcoBot for $5,000. The second one is Head Start, a new grant we received for $700,000. The next one is Head Start in kind for $35,624. The next one is the Hog Foundation, $21. Adult Education, $793. Also for Adult Education, $315. And we have AB West local budget, $4,564. And we have a special revenue grant received for $2,829 for AB East. Decreases were the Case Houston Endowment, minus $50,000. The rollover was less than for the following year. And then Teaching and Learning Center, $15,898. The net amount of the increase would be $783,248. In terms of AB Western, our PFC and construction update, this is the closing that was done on the bonds about a year ago. These are the payments that we made year to date, $1,620,380. An amount available in funds invested are $10,698,269. Out of that, there's a report that includes all our commitments. That includes a total of $9,348,564 out of the $10,698,269. There's $1,349,704 available for contingencies, furniture, and equipment for the project. So this is a report on all outstanding cost and also all outstanding commitments from the PFC that are included here. In the next page is also the interest that we have been earning on the PFC. So far, we've earned $286,333, of which approximately $22,554 are going to be set aside as a payment to the IRS because it's above the 168 interest rate. So we're going to carve that out and put it as a reserve. We just finished the arbitrage report for the 2014 refunding issue, and so we'll be presenting that to the PFC board. Every 5 years from the last issue, you have to report to the IRS whether you have arbitrage rebate to the IRS. We did a calculation for the 2014 refunding, and there's no rebate to be made, but we have to present the report at our next PFC meeting. The construction period is anywhere between 11 to 14 months. That date is probably going to change pending that we're still pending the permit, and so that so the dates are probably going to change. What you see there, that is assuming that the construction had already gotten started, but so that will be updated to you in the future. Any questions on the first report of two?
I did have a question about your the fund equity, the available funds. One of the very first things we brought up.
On the very first slides.
You had stated that the available funds was at 28 million.
28.
28 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just wondering. I got a document here that says
yes.
37.
Because this is when we started the beginning of the year. What you have in your financial is anything that happens during the first 5 months of the year affects that beginning fund balance. This is just what started when the auditors gave us the report at the end of the year.
So what is this?
The financial statement that you have there.
The one with the fund equities, yes.
Yes. You're looking at this page right here.
Between the two fund equities is, you said, it's just an accounting thing?
Yes, it's there's revenues and expenditures. As we get more revenues and expenses, the fund balance is either going to go higher if you have more revenues, or if you have more expenses, it's going to go down.
Figure out why January 31st on both of them. Am I missing something? If it says 37 on one fund equity, and then on that it says 29 or 28, just trying to.
Oh, because this is 9/1, the September one. If you see the first column that says September 1.
You gave us the September balance?
Yes, it actually says at on the chart.
Looking at this one that says
yes.
January 31st.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and so
we'll talk about it after,
sure.
I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
That's fine.
What we report here is what we started at the beginning of the year, and then you're going to see fluctuations each month.
Okay.
The next report is the investment report. All our funds are invested in accordance with the Chapter 2256 of the Public Funds Investment Act. Our total portfolio is $35,402,339. The Public Facilities Corporation is $13,039,035. Notice that there is a little bit more there than the available funds, and the reason for that is that we made a $2.3 million payment that is due in February, so they're the holders of the fiscal agent, so that number is available for payments but not for construction. So you'll see a difference of about $2.3 million in that number. All our monies are in 91% in investment pools, 9% in the money market sweep account. At the PFC, again, all of them are in the in tax pool, and some of them are in Bank of Texas funds. In comparison from a year ago, we're at $3,195,191. Difference from a year ago, or 7% change from a year ago at the same time. Everything is pretty much overnight funds that we can pull from our pool. Year-to-date earnings are $227,702, and the PFC $98,593. The benchmark is 2.38 earnings on our funds, and you can see the progression of the increases in all the interest rates over the last 18 months. Any questions that you may have on our investments? No? Okay. Thank you.
Consensus agenda, right? Yeah. Do we have any exceptions to the consensus agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of the consent? Huh? Okay. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Danny Norris, seconded by Dr. George. Richard. That's right. Okay. All in favor? Is there any discussion? Let's get that vote. All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions? 7-0.
Can I interrupt for a minute? Do we not have to approve the minutes?
Wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah, it's above the non-consensus.
It's in the consensus items,
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You're right. Never mind.
Okay. We'll move on to the non-consensus items. We have consideration approval of purchase of E-rated equipment needed for the HCDE schools and Head Start centers in an amount not to exceed $57,000 for the computer discount warehouse government, job number 18/06 KD-13. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Danny Norris. Second by Trustee Eric Dick. Any discussion?
Yes. I just have a question here. The amount of this expenditure that's has to do with Head Start, is that being considered as part of the administrative recovery from the federal government? Is an expenditure for that?
Yes, the 85% of that comes from E-rate, and the local portion will come from Head Start.
Okay. Well, that was my question, because it wasn't clear as to
The funding source.
the source of the funding. Thank you.
And to note, one of our guests, it's fully funded by Head Start.
No.
E-rate and Head Start.
Okay. Okay. All in favor of item A? All opposed? None? See none? Passed. Next item, this is the one that's tabled from January 2016 board meeting. Contract award for job number 18/059KJ, Board Legal Services for HCD Board of Trustees to the proposers offering the best value to HCDE and meeting the specifications outlined in the proposal. Proposed vendor to determine by a Board of Trustees. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we continue this tabling indefinitely.
There's a motion to continue indefinitely.
Second.
Second by Richard Cantu. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of tabling item B? Show of hands. All opposed? Item C, consider approval and adoption of resolution approving amendment to the bylaws by the HCDE Public Facilities Corporation to add one director to the PFC Board of Directors. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee, do you get it? Sumners and Trustee Norris. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. 6-1. Item D, consideration election appointment of a director to the HCDE Public Facilities Corporation Board of Directors, and consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding the removal and replacement of directors of the HCDE Public Facilities Corporation agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
What?
I make a motion that Josh Flynn be appointed to the vacant position that we've approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of placing Josh Flynn on the HCDE Public Facilities Corporation Board, show by raising your hand. All opposed? 6-1. Is there any additional motions with regard to the Public Facilities Corporation?
Quick question. Is there a way we can, and I think what was discussed at the special meeting was that it's the president's position. Is there a way that we can make sure that the president of our board has a standing position, I guess, because that seems to be the issue, is that we've changed.
That's a great question. In order to do that would require an amendment to the bylaws of the PFC, and pursuant to applicable statute in the Local Government Code, Chapter 303, and as well as the bylaws of the PFC. To amend the bylaws would start with the PFC Board of Directors. They would have to vote to amend their bylaws, and then it would come back to the HCDE Board for approval, similar to what you guys just did in the agenda item before, in order to make that happen.
I would consider that might be a solution. I think Don, one of his issues as well. So I think that might be something that those who are on that board consider to bring to the board next time, to make sure that automatically the president sits on that board so they have input.
Mr. Norris, if you will give me a agenda item, we will make sure that we get that on the next board meeting.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other discussion with regard to item D on the agenda? Okay, I don't know if anybody's going to second this, but I'm going to make the motion because I haven't been able to discuss this with anybody. But I'm going to move that one of the 3 votes that the HCDE employees have on the PFC board be removed. Just one. I think that we have a block of 3, and well, I need a second. So.
I'd like legal counsel to opine on this as to whether or not this is actually something that our board can take up as opposed to the PFC board.
I'm happy to do that, Mr. Sumners. I have copies of the bylaws of the HCDE PFC, and if you would turn to the provision that's marked, it's section 3.3 of the bylaws, which discusses removal of a current director. And the bylaws specifically states, section 3.3, any director may be removed from office with or without cause at any meeting of the Board of Directors by the affirmative vote of a majority of the full Board of Directors and the approval of the County Board of School Trustees. Therefore, because the bylaws provide for removal, which would start with the PFC Board of Directors, and then again by approval from the HCDE Board, it's my opinion that because the PFC Board has not voted to remove any of its directors, that this board does not yet have authority to do that.
And this president respectfully disagrees with the legal counsel. So I'm still waiting for a second. If there is no second, we will continue on. Hearing no second, we'll go to item E, consideration and possible vote on a director to the board legal counsel to present a report to the board on the status of Harris County Educational Foundation, including identifying the acting directors and officers and compliance with federal and state filings, regulatory provisions. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make the motion that we direct legal counsel as the agenda item request.
Are you asking the are you asking the attorney to make that?
Well, he's
we have to
an opinion.
This is yes. In other words, this item is to ask the attorney to present us with this report at a future date.
Are you making the motion to make this a directive to the board
yes,
legal counsel?
That's what I said, I think.
I will second that motion. Is there any discussion?
Right here. So are you saying it in a passive sense? If you're asking her to, is whether she could say no?
No, it's a directive that she do it. Yeah. Now, let me, as a matter of discussion here, we have tried to instigate something new to the board with this meeting, and if anybody who wants to can look at the page numbers in the agenda and see all of these upcoming items. The item is being requested is given, and an explanation of the reason for requesting the item is given as well, which is new. In other words, because the board can't communicate amongst itself about these items, we are putting in the agenda itself an explanation of why the item is being requested.
Trustee Sumners, can you help me understand why we're requesting this item?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on page 894.
That you might be able to tell me why we're requesting this item.
Have you read the agenda?
I was just asking the question. You put it out there.
Well, it's specified on page 894. Do you want me to read it to you?
Sure.
If you want, I'll go ahead and read it myself.
Okay.
I have an attachment on 894.
Well, it's on page 895. 894 is the
Okay.
second paragraph.
Just the second paragraph?
Yep.
Okay. Explanation for request. For a substantial time, there has been confusion as to the actual board members and officers of Harris County Educational Foundation. After HCD stopped funding the foundation with $185 annual payment, there was supposedly substantial turnover and resignations of directors. A previous effort to obtain this information was incomplete. One bio of a supposed director received by the HCDE board was so old that it indicated his current employment was as an aide to Congressman Chris Bell, who left office at the end of 2005. Others were similarly outdated. This request is particularly important at this time because the information, item 10C, in January 16, 2019 board agenda pertained to submission of a grant proposal prepared by HCDE to the Dudley T. Doherty Foundation, was made in collaboration with Educational Foundation of Harris County. The involvement of the Educational Foundation was only disclosed on items detailed on page 300. Dick.
How much will this cost? How much are we wasting on this report? I just want to know.
Are you saying you don't want to know about who's on the board?
I just want to know what the cost is. I want to know how much we're spending. We're worried about, what, $900 here and $1,000 here. I want to know how much we're going to spend on this. That's all. For having a legal attorney, spend her time at $200 an hour, how long is it going to cost? How much do you think it's going to cost?
My understanding is that the legal covers the Educational Foundation, and that in my experience with foundations, generally the institution that has the foundation receives money from a foundation, not pay $185,000 to the foundation. And so that's what happened, and that's when they realized that occurred, it basically shut down because it's supposed to be incoming, not out. So if we want to start it again, or at least we obviously did, because at the last agenda we did something through the foundation that has money. We don't have any idea who the directors are, and you would like to continue that?
Well, I think that's what you should do as a trustee, is find out the information.
That's what we're trying to do.
Not spend money on an attorney at $200 an hour to do it. You criticize people about getting the Hilco contract and spending money on that, but you seem fine with hiring an attorney and spending $200 an hour, having her do your legwork for you. I want to know how much it costs. Please.
When in my research, I found the same thing that Trustee Sumner did, which was everything was outdated back to 2005. That was what, as a trustee, I searched, and that's what we found. And let me ask you again, how do we fix that? Do you have an idea? Have you done the research? Because if we don't, if you aren't able to do that, then we have to get Sarah, or our legal, the people that are supposed to do it are supposed to do it. And they're not doing it, and we need them to do that.
Appears you don't want to tell me, or someone doesn't want to tell me. I just want to know how much it costs. That's all I'm asking. That's all I asked the whole time. How much does it cost? You try to talk about something else. I just want to know how much it costs. That's all.
There shouldn't be any additional cost because it's part of their duties that they're supposed to do anyway. So if you would like the answer to your question, I believe Sarah is sitting right next to you. She can give you that. So if the attorney will please give us an estimate as to what that designated cost would be outside of your regular billing, which would be.
Sure. I'm happy to do so. So it's difficult, Eric, as you know, as a lawyer, sometimes to approximate or estimate how much time something will take you to evaluate. I am unaware of what the foundation's records, where they are, where they exist, what their current state is in. My initial starting point, if the board were desired for me to look into this matter, would be to contact the HCDE liaison for the foundation to determine where are the records, who are the directors, officers, et cetera, the 990 filings, audits, all of those sorts of things. And it really just depends on the state of what the records are in order to give you a good answer.
That sounds like a lot of hours. It sounds like about 20 to 30 hours is my guess.
Okay, so should we, yeah.
Do you think it's at least 10 hours?
I have a very hard time estimating at this point because if everything's in order, then it could be 2 hours. But if it's not, then, I mean, it could be a significant period
So
of time.
what would be the high end? What would be the high end of the amount of time you'd spend on it?
I'm happy for the board to tell me how much time that you guys would like for me to spend on it, and I would agree to adhere to that estimate.
I think that'd be much more reasonable to put some type of limit on this, which you don't want to.
That's totally fine.
I mean, before we go with an attorney, why don't we ask the attorney as to who is supposed to take care of this, and ask that person who is supposed to take care of the foundation's records?
So the foundation as a separate legal entity, a separate nonprofit, is responsible for complying with the Nonprofit Corporation Act for all of the federal filings, et cetera. HCDE, I believe, does have a liaison to the foundation, and so in lieu of asking me to look at it initially, another option may be to ask that individual or the administration to look into these matters. It's up to the board.
Can I interject here? I realize that there is a cost involved here, but I guess Mr. Trustee Dick failed to realize that we said a previous effort to obtain this information was incomplete. We have asked for all of this information from this administration, and we're given all this incomplete, out-of-dated information in return. And that's why this agenda item is on here. Because we were told that basically the Educational Foundation was now inactive, but now we have, in effect, an agenda item in a prior agenda that says that the grant was requested in cooperation with this supposedly inactive organization. We don't know who their president is. We don't know who their directors are. They don't have any idea if they've even met within the last year or two. So we're just trying to get to the bottom of this, Trustee Dick, and I think I would be willing to put a $2,000 limit on this request, but I'm not willing to just throw this away because we need to know this Educational Foundation, basically they are to help us, but we have no idea what they're doing, how they're doing it, or who's doing it. And I think it's just good business sense to find that out, and that's why I requested this item.
I just asked the cost. I just want to know the cost. That's all. That's y'all say all this stuff. I just want to know the cost. It sounds like it's going to be, at least $2,000, right? So I just
okay. Let me.
I think we could get
just
maybe non-attorneys. Well,
yeah.
It's my turn to speak. Okay, Don. My hand was up. Please let me have my turn to speak. Yeah. I asked for that courtesy. Okay. All I'm saying is, why don't we get someone that doesn't cost us $200 an hour to do this? And if it's a problem, you know, we just set it for, we have like a status, show up at the next board meeting. I don't see why you want to spend all this money trying to get some presentation that I think we can get in a least expensive way. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to say something now. Trustee Dick is an attorney. If you go to hire him, he's not going to tell you how much it's going to cost. He may get it on contention, but he bills by the hour just like every other attorney does. So I don't understand the justification for this question. I would amend my motion to limit the expenditure to $2,000.
Hold on.
No, I want to speak. He said my name. I should at least be able to speak. Or do you think I shouldn't be able to speak because he said my name? Am I talking too much for you?
I apologize. Just as a matter of clarification, Mr. Sumners, did you just say that you wanted to amend your motion?
Yes,
I thought I heard
I
that.
did.
Okay, and so just so the record is clear, you'd like to amend your motion to put a $2,000 limit?
Cap on the expenditure.
On the expenditure? Okay, and Mr. Flynn, you seconded that motion. Is that a friendly amendment?
It's not. It's not a friendly amendment. It is an amendment, and I will second the amendment.
We're not through discussing.
No, we're trying to limit the $2,000. Okay, so all in favor of limiting this item to $2,000?
Cool.
Hold on, do we still discuss? I think we're still in discussion, though, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is the amendment. So we're going to change the discussion to the amendment. So any additional ancillary discussion has to be germane to the $2,000 limit. It has been motioned and seconded, so that is now the discussion. Do you have a discussion with regard to the $2,000 limitation?
I did. I had my hand raised.
Trustee Dick, please discuss.
Sure. Don, when people hire me, they hire me on a contingency fee. Whenever they hire me hourly, I charge $4.50 an hour. I tell them what it's going to cost. I don't try to hide anything. And I do not appreciate the snide remarks that you're trying to say that I do.
Please direct your conversation to me.
Well, he directed his conversation. He was talking to me. You didn't say that to him.
My question.
He was being hypothetical.
I don't think he was being hypothetical at all.
I have a question, but it's whether it's necessary. And I guess the question becomes, what happened with I'm not sure what happened with the original report. It sounds like there was information. I don't know if that's an administration question, but I'm just curious on what happened where we need to spend money for this period. I'm just curious on what happened with the report.
In the agenda explanation of the agenda item, it tells you what happened. We requested this information, and it's been some time ago. And we got information that was incomplete, totally inaccurate, and no further explanation from the administration. And that's why.
Remind the board members, we are discussing the $2,000 limit.
No, we aren't.
I have a question.
Not really.
Discussing the item.
The item is, the motion is an amended motion, and we are trying to get a $2,000. If we want to just vote it down, that's fine. But we have a motion that's been seconded, a $2,000 limit on the main motion. Any discussion with regard to the $2,000 limit on the main motion?
Yes. Do we have anyone that can do this for free?
George, we tried that.
We did.
We did. And I can probably go back and find the information that was given. I've got it in a file. And that's what this explanation tells you, that we got bad information.
Does our superintendent have any information so he can provide the rest of us that weren't privy?
Please go ahead.
Well, first I'd like to say that when I first arrived, it is true that our foundation was far more programmatic than it was philanthropic, which is, I feel like, a backwards design. After being here for about 15 to 18 months, we actually reconstituted the entire foundation. It had upwards to 14 or 16 members, and that got reconstituted down to about 4 remaining members, including their new president. The person that was on staff that actually served as the liaison for the foundation ultimately resigned, or I guess that's probably not the word, the board I think let him go, yeah. And then we dissolved that position, and then I assigned a person from my staff, my cabinet, to be the new liaison between the foundation. The reports that Mr. Sumner keeps referring to, I actually not sure what he's referring to. Any report that has been requested of the administration, we always go out of our way to do a thorough job to present that to the board. We are more than happy to, we as the administration is more than happy to present anything requested to the board. I don't know if there's an issue of whether, you know, the board trusts us in giving that report with the foundation. The last conversation we had about the foundation actually was probably about 15 months ago, right after Harvey, because there was an agenda item where the board wanted to take money and give it out to the ISDs to help them recover from Harvey. We requested an Attorney General report to see if that was a gift of public funds and whether we could legally do that. Ultimately, the AG report said that we could, and what my recommendation to the board was, if the board members remember, is that perhaps what we should do is put money to the foundation and they could give it out to the ISDs in the form of scholarships, grants, and that type of thing. And so then I remember Trustee Sumner's requesting that we format how that happens instead of just giving the trust to the foundation to do that. We need to ensure the membership, and they need to have a process and a format, and that's what the administration has currently been working on, and we have not reported to the board anything about that. I don't recall ever getting formal request or demanding to know more information about where we are with that. That's where the foundation was left at. So I'm actually kind of surprised by the item, and that's why I asked. I'm not sure what the purpose of it is.
I do think that this, you know, I'm very much supportive of the Harris County Educational Foundation. And my interest is to see that they do have funds and that they are using those to support our school districts, regardless if it's for Harvey. And you know how passionate I was about that.
Yes, sir.
But to make sure they do. And I don't know the best way to get this report or to make sure that we've got a board that's functioning well and supporting them. And that's all my concern is. How do we get that to happen? And I don't, you know, I'm not concerned if we have to pay $2,000 for an attorney. Yeah, I don't like spending that. But if we could get that done for no monies, that would even be better. And so, but I would like to see what's happening with that board and that it starts functioning well. That's my.
And Dr. Moore, I think that's a fair question. And Mr. Flynn, President Flynn, maybe perhaps a solution to this is we can do exactly that. The administration can present a report to the board, and the board can choose to determine how it wants to proceed.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to dismiss this $2,000. So if that's the amendment to the motion, if we can just either vote it up or vote it down so that we can move on. All in favor of making a $2,000 limit, please raise your hand.
I thought we were discussing stuff, but are you
Please
too good for
discuss.
discussion?
Go right ahead.
I mean, it didn't, why don't we, I mean, weren't we talking about amending it and changing the agenda item?
Our item right now on the floor is a $2,000 limit.
Sure.
Would you like to discuss the $2,000 limit?
Well, we can discuss amending the item.
What would your amendment be? Please state your motion.
Well, what we're talking about, maybe instead of having the attorney do it, we have the administration do it. So maybe consider.
I don't believe that is germane to the $2,000 limit.
Right, we're talking about the agenda item, and it's not, we aren't only just.
Right
talking
now,
about
on the
2,000.
floor is a $2,000 limit.
No, actually.
So we will discuss that, and then we will get back to the main motion.
What's on the, I thought it was the item, and we amended the item.
Amended the motion.
Oh,
So
we
there's
amended
a motion to amend the original motion to place a $2,000 limit on the request.
Okay.
And so that's the current motion to amend that's on the floor.
Okay.
Is there any additional discussion with regard to the $2,000 limit?
A question for our attorney, I guess. If we determine that if we determine that the administration can do it for free, or if it can be done for the administration, can we just cancel both the amendment and can we withdraw both? How does that work? We would have to get everybody that motion and second it, right? Withdraw their motion, is that?
Not necessarily, so that would be one option. There's
Okay.
a couple of different ways, but let's say, hypothetically, if a board member wanted to make a motion to amend, to ask the administration as opposed to your attorney to draft this report, then it would be inconsequential how you would vote on the $2,000 limit, because whether that passed or failed, somebody could still make an additional motion to amend the original motion to replace legal counsel with administration, to where the administration would deliver that report as opposed to legal counsel. Did that make sense? I know that was sort of complicated.
So.
Okay, again, any discussion with regard to the $2,000 limit, and then we can move on back to the main motion, that everybody's concerned that we're not voting on the main motion, we're simply voting on the $2,000. Is it clear?
I think if
Okay.
if we can get a commitment from Superintendent Kolbert that the administration, if they can do it, I think so the bottom line would be it wouldn't cost anything. So we would ultimately just.
Trustee Norris, I am holding my comment until we get over the 2,000, because then I will address all that. But I'd like to get, a motion was made, it was seconded. We've got to get that over, and then we can start discussing again the main motion. But until we do that, I'm not going to speak on the main motion until the 2,000 is done, because that would not be appropriate.
$1,000 motion just be withdrawn, and we can just move on.
I'm not going to withdraw it.
Yes, I seconded it, but it doesn't matter. Okay.
Let's vote.
Okay, is everybody ready to vote? Okay, all in favor with a $2,000 limit, please raise your hand. All opposed? Motion fails 6-1. Back to the main motion. Any discussion with regard to the main motion before I start talking? Because I have some questions myself.
The one I posed for Superintendent Kolbert. What do we need to make sure that happened before?
Would you like to amend the motion to request that instead of legal counsel provide the report, that administration provide the report?
Sure.
Okay. We have a motion and it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, my discussion point here has to do with the 990 and who files the 990. When I went to the Guide Star that publishes all the 990s, I could only find 2016, which could necessarily be that 2017 is out of compliance. And if it is not in compliance with it, should have been due almost a year ago, that could result in it's a $50 fine every day that it's not been filed. Okay, that is well exceeds $2,000, and it well exceeds any money that she could possibly bill us, I hope. And my concern is who is supposed to file that 990 and where is it? And if we can get that nailed down, maybe through that process of getting the 990, who is already supposed to be paid to do the 990, so there would not be, it would be a zero cost if we could just simply get it done, and then we could deal with the resulting penalties, if any, and the resulting answer to your question, because it would be on the 990 as to who is the officers.
The 990 last year for 2017, the liaison was not here anymore, so after he left, then we went in and looked at that and worked with the auditors, and we filed the 2017. There was an extension made for 2017, so that was recently done about 3 months ago. Right now, we're working on the extension for 2018. It is a compilation because we didn't have an audit done. There was very little funds. So we're in the process of finishing that up probably this week and filing that 2018 Form 990 on behalf of the foundation.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Amesqua. One question is, how confident are we with the list of directors that you place on the 990 that is accurate?
Well, the records are basically I coordinate with our fellow folks on the administration to tell me which ones are effective right now and which ones are not. I don't have any other way of confirming other than the information that we received that we place on the Form 990.
So we would actually, you couldn't do that. You would have to get a legal opinion as to who is the director. Who are the directors involved in
I need
that?
to, well, we'll have to see the minutes and see who was voted when and what have you to confirm all that. But I don't confirm that. I just get the information as to who is or who's a member of the board at this point in time.
So would you suggest to do that?
Well, our current liaison and coordination also with council, but leading from administration to look at and follow up and provide a report to the board.
Do you have a timetable for that?
Again, the Form 990 is going to be due probably this week, maybe at best at the end of early next week. So.
Do they have the
that
same
should not
fiscal
take very
year?
long.
Does
They
the
have the
foundation?
same fiscal year.
As the September?
As September 1 to August 31st.
Can I ask?
Doctor, just quick, Dr. Mesqua, so is it your assessment that currently the foundation's in compliance?
Yes, we have submitted our 990s. We're good. Right now, we have an extension for 2018 because we knew that there was very little activity, so we didn't have a lot of activity going on. So we went ahead and filed the extension. We worked with our external auditors to file the extension, and we're in the process of finalizing the compilation and filling out all the documentation for the 990.
Okay, can I ask one question? You led, at least from what you said, it sounded like you had no way of verifying independently that these were actually the directors of the foundation.
Because I don't have the minutes and the records, I don't.
Okay, so
those are in. They used to be in the foundation's file cabinet here in the fourth floor.
Okay, so you're sort of filing these reports blindly? That you can't verify that these are the people that actually are the directors?
Well, we'll verify that. I mean, if you want us to verify that individually, but we were going with what the information was provided to us by the liaison, on behalf of administration.
Yeah.
Okay, on the Schedule O of the 990, there is a place to tell us where and how the board approves the 990. And I'm just wondering, is that being followed, or do we even have a written on the Schedule O of the 990 how to do that?
No, I mean, all of that will be sent to us, and then we'll follow through with if we need to have a meeting to have it approved and what have you before it gets presented, before it gets submitted.
Did you do that for 17?
For 17, there was only the information that was submitted because there were very few records available to us.
So what you're telling me is that you filed 17 without really being able to verify the correctness of the information that was on it?
The correctness of the information, there was an audit done of the foundation. That was an audit conducted of the foundation. So it had to have those confirmations, and just like a normal audit would happen, the same process.
Okay. Well, so I guess to make everybody happy here, I'd like to withdraw my original motion and substitute a motion that the board be presented with a report by the superintendent as to the legal situation of the foundation, the officers of the foundation, and the directors of the foundation, and whether or not the foundation is in compliance, and that the information that given on the 990s has been verified. Just for a second, for people that don't know what a 990 is, it's the required annual form for a nonprofit to file with the Internal Revenue Service to remain a nonprofit. Yes, within the time to be presented to the next board meeting.
Hold on,
Second.
there's a pending amendment.
Yeah, there's a pending amendment on the floor.
That isn't the amendment?
The amendment is made by trustee Norris and seconded by trustee Cantu, was to replace the main motion wording of board legal counsel with administration. And so I believe that it's basically what you were already saying, trustee Sumners, with the exception of the time period. And so if
I think his motion is a substitute motion
the motion to the main motion or the motion to amend?
to the motion to amend.
Yeah. Yes. However we need to do it, I think.
Repeat it, because it was long.
It says what you say plus more.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's
But
the more
it
part that I was trying to
Yeah,
remember.
it takes the legal counsel out of the loop, so
I'm-
that there won't be any cost.
No, I got that. I'm just trying to figure out what all I heard a bunch after, substituting it, but I got lost in some of the more part. So I'm just trying to, can you recap the more part?
Okay, basically, we're asking the superintendent to provide the same information that the original motion asked the council to provide. In other words, that we know that the foundation is in proper legal status, that we know the directors of the foundation, and we know the president of the foundation, and we know who our liaison with the foundation is.
What's the difference? Mine was.
And a timeline.
And the time, and we need it by next month. The difference is I'm specifying what we need to know.
Okay, the time frame. Okay, so the time frame was the specification.
Next
Can
week.
it be a friendly to the amendment?
There's really no such thing as friendly amendment, okay? So if we're gonna make an amendment, we need to make the amendment, and then we just vote on it. If it's a friendly amendment, we won't have any discussion, and it'll just happen, okay? So that was the point of that $2,000 thing, and that's why we don't have friendly amendments, okay? So if we're gonna have discussion about something, then
That's
that
why
would not
he
make it a
doesn't
friendly
have
moment.
I'm pretty sure you could do a friendly. So ultimately, what I heard Trustee Sumner say was that he wanted to basically add a time frame to the next meeting. It's going to be done by the administration, which was my amendment, which was my amendment. It was just to be done, completed, and everything completed by the next board meeting. Did I hear you right?
Yes.
And a friendly amendment, it just requires the motioner and the second to agree, right?
My understanding under Robert's rules is that if an amendment is offered and the person's making and seconding the original motion, which that would be you and Mr. Cantu, then accepts that no vote needs to be taken on the amendment, and it says this is called making a friendly amendment. And so it's my opinion that if you and Mr. Cantu
Agreed
would
to the
like
time frame.
to add that to your motion to amend, then that's added to your motion to amend without the need to call for a vote. And then the original motion to amend would be voted on.
I don't have any issue with it either. That's why I think it might be easier just to say, yeah, you want to add time frame to it. I don't think anybody has an issue with the time frame, Trustee Sumner or Trustee Flynn.
Without objection, we will add the time frame. So the motion is to change the legal counsel to administration plus a time frame. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? All opposed? Unanimous. Now we're back to the main motion as amended. Any discussion with regard to the main motion? Hearing none. All in favor? All opposed? We got something done, hey. Item F, consideration and possible vote on directive to Superintendent James Kolbert to develop and present a report to the board on the current operational status of Fortis Academy and his improvement plan to make Fortis Academy a viable school operating in the future. Do I have a motion?
I so move. Make that motion, please.
I will second. Any discussion?
I would ask the board to please approve this item. I would look forward to the opportunity to update the Board of Trustees on the status of Fortis Academy and our progress moving forward. Thank you.
All right. Any additional? Is there anything in particular that you're looking for to make sure that he can make sure it's included?
Right now, we're spending about $1 million for 6 kids. And so we'd like to have something that would make it more viable. I mean, everybody loves the Fortis Academy, but we need students to make it viable. So that's the plan we want to put in place. It's been open for 2 years, and we have 6 kids.
So,
any additional discussion?
So just make sure I'm clear. So when we're looking at his report, I guess next month we're looking for a report
Next meeting.
Next meeting. We're looking for a report that shows how do we make sure that we grow the growth and what's the plan. I'm just making sure I know what to look for at the next meeting.
That's correct.
All right.
Any additional discussion? All in favor? All against? So moved. 7-1. Agenda item G. In consideration of a request and possible vote for board legal counsel to report to the Board of HCDE making a $1,500 contribution to the Lone Star College Education Foundation golf tournament, including superintendent's justification of benefit to HCDE for making the $1,500 contribution, identification of the names and positions of the HCDE players, and the administration's justification of the expenditure, and an opinion as to the legality under Texas law of the government making the charitable contributions to the foundation. Do I have a motion?
So moved, please.
Michael, if trustee, seconds. Any discussion?
You do realize that it's going to cost more than $1,500 to get a legal opinion from an attorney, right? I'm not the only one, being an attorney, I do charge by the hour. I do stuff a contingency fee too. But we do realize that this report that we're asking for is going to cost probably more than $1,500. I'm just asking if y'all realize that.
I agree with Trustee Eric Dick. The superintendent has informed me with regard to the people and going, and that this is basically ended up being just a $1,500 contribution without the golf tournament. And therefore, I have the same concern as my trustee, Eric Dick.
Okay. The reason for this is whether or not, just for us to know whether or not we can make charitable contributions under state law. That's the whole question mark here. It doesn't really matter how much the expenditure is. Did we violate state law by making a charitable contribution?
I ask you personally pay for the, because I don't want to approve this. If you want it, I think you should personally pay for the attorney fee, the attorney's fees for it. I just ask you personally pay it.
Counselor,
That's
do we
not
need
even
this?
germane.
Do we need a vote on this? Is this something you can answer now?
And I can provide you a short answer now. It doesn't necessarily require any legal research. The test is really whether or not such an expenditure is a gift of public funds in violation of the Texas Constitution. The case law, as well as the Attorney General opinions interpreting that provision of the Texas Constitution, provide that, and I'm paraphrasing, provide that so long as a public purpose is met by the expenditure, then it is not a gift of public funds. And so here, it is my understanding, and Superintendent Kolbert, please correct me if my factual understanding is incorrect, but that the $1,500 was to support Lone Star as a further marketing effort of HCDE as well as Choice Partners. And I believe that this funds were taken from Choice Partners, not from tax dollars, which is an additional consideration. Is that correct?
You are correct. And
And
so,
the-
In a nutshell, that's the test.
And,
So,
and
Mr.
I'll add that the end purpose, because I happen to serve on that foundation, and if we vote on this, I will abstain. The end purpose of this fundraiser is for scholarships, and we're in the business of education.
Okay, but the problem is that, as I see it, is Lone Star College is not within the purview of this organization. We do not support anything except ISDs. And colleges are not within the purview. I understand that maybe the justification has more to do with the marketing than it does with the reason for the contribution. But this was an item raised here by a member of the public, and that was why I was asking for the request. And so maybe in response to Trustee Dick's comment, we may be able to get this explanation at little or no expense based on what legal counsel has already told us. And I would just ask that maybe we be supplied with this information in writing as opposed to verbally here at the meeting. Thank you. And I'll withdraw my motion.
can I just make a statement for the record? Just as a point of clarification, our Choice Partners works with a number of organizations throughout the entire state of Texas, and Lone Star College is one of them. Typically, almost every public education entity, certainly in the state of Texas, but probably the country, has a foundation where their primary fundraiser is a golf tournament. You know, I mean, that's where they get the bulk of their money. All of the major ISDs do it. I would probably guess about 97% of the participants in these charity golf tournaments are vendors. And it's their way of showing a district that they support their public initiatives going through the organization. Lone Star College is not different from that. We did not take money from our tax base. We took money from the proceeds from Choice Partners, and it was a way of giving money back to an organization who we had been making money off of, which is not unusual from any of the participants in the tournament. Ultimately, myself and others did not participate in the golf tournament, not because we thought it was wrong, not because we thought it was illegal, but we looked at it, or I looked at it as a distraction. But I absolutely do not think it was wrong at all. And so I don't see anything wrong with the best practice. It's one that's exercised all the time.
Okay. Can I make one more comment real quick? I don't see a differential between Choice Partners money and HCED tax money. All the money belongs to HCDE. And so that really is a distinction without merit. But I will accept an explanation as legal counsel made that this was done in furtherance of the activities of the department as opposed to just being a charitable contribution. Remember, this was made to the foundation and not to the Lone Star College itself.
Are you withdrawing?
Yes, I withdrawn my motion and asked that we get a written explanation of what was told to us today.
Trustee Wolf, are you withdrawing your second? Thank you. Okay. Without a motion, we'll go to the next item.
Wait. We're good.
Okay. Item H, consideration of request and possible vote for board legal counsel to report to the board on the legality of using HCDE funds in excess of $900 to hold recognition dinner for HCDE school principals and whether such functions at the government expense are customary within the state school districts.
Okay, I'd like to make this motion and amend it to state that.
You need a second first.
Well, I can amend it before. Yeah, okay. Basically, I'm going to amend what is in the agenda item to state that if we can get a reasonable explanation from legal counsel now, that I will withdraw the motion.
Without a second, there is no motion. Moving on to the Next item, I, consideration.
I can second it just so we can. It seems like that's gonna. If you want it,
Very
you want to
good.
get. We might as well get it along with the other one and just get an opinion. So I'll second it so we can go ahead and clear up the.
It has been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Turn to our. We'd like to know
Yes,
from the
please.
council.
It's the same test that I just articulated with regard to the previous item. It would be whether or not such is a gift of public funds in violation of the Texas Constitution. And I'll point out, similar to when Mr. Kolbert referenced that we had asked for an Attorney General opinion with regard to the donation to the Foundation for the Innovation Zone grants. It's that same test, which the Attorney General articulated in that opinion, which is a public purpose served by that expenditure? Are there controls in place to ensure that that public purpose is met, et cetera? And so similarly here, it's a public purpose served by that expenditure. I will tell you that I and my law firm represent many school districts across the state of Texas, and this is not abnormal. This is in fact a pretty routine expenditure for school districts and charter schools alike to hold recognition dinners, banquets, all campus or all department-wide or all district-wide events with using department funds or district funds. Occasionally, if it's a larger district, they will try to get their foundation to sponsor or a vendor to sponsor, but it is not abnormal for school districts to make this type of expenditure, in my opinion.
Any more discussion?
No more discussion.
Okay, so could
I withdraw my motion?
you withdraw the motion? Do you withdraw your second? Okay. No motion on the floor. Going to item I. Consideration of and possible vote on a directive to the HCDE, PFC, and superintendent to develop and present a report to the board of the current status of the construction of the new AB School West, the anticipated opening date of the school, and a detailed analysis of the costs incurred to date and the future estimated costs to be incurred for completion. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
I second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I don't have
What does the superintendent think about this?
I don't have a problem with that. You
Trying
know,
to make it a time certain.
I'd like for it to stop raining so we can get started and get our permits approved.
You need to make a time
But
certain.
that's something that also
Make a
we can
amendment.
incorporate. Administration doesn't have an issue doing a presentation on this. I think it'd be a good opportunity to update the board on the project.
Mr. Superintendent,
Sir.
can we put that for the next meeting? Are you able to do that?
I would appreciate that. It
Okay.
seems like I've got
So
a number
I
of
would like to-
presentations to do next month.
I'd
or
like to
next
add
meeting.
to the next board meeting, which I believe is in 2 months.
Yep. Thank you.
Does that need to be formalized in a motion?
As long as Mr. Sumners agrees to that
I'm
amendment.
a little bit confused. We don't have a board meeting next month?
Next board meeting.
The next
April.
board
Oh,
meeting, not
March
next
is-
month, just the next board meeting.
Yes, okay.
Is that
Yes, the
acceptable?
next board meeting is fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion? The motion as amended is as presented plus the date certain in April. All in favor? Motion by raising your hand. Unanimous? The executive session will be started. Do I have any language that y'all give me?
You need to state the time as well as the sections.
Under the Texas Government Code pursuant to any and all purposes permitted by Section 551.01 through 551.084, but not limited to 551.071 and 551.074. We'll be going to executive session as of 3:25.
His coat's here.
HCDE Board of Trustees is reconvening after executive session. It is 6:08. We're now going to take into consideration some employment items, which is the transition specialist at High Point School. Want to do both at the same time? And the curriculum director of Digital Education for Innovation Teaching and Learning Center. All in favor? Oh, gotta have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Norris and seconded by Mr. Cantu. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? None. 7-0. Item on the thing is possible action regarding evaluation duties and/or discipline of HCDE trustees, including possible action regarding investigation. I have a motion to accept the findings of and recommendations of the investigation as discussed in executive session and requested that board council draft a resolution of censure against HCDE trustee position 5 for the board's consideration at a future meeting. Have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Danny Norris.
That's fine.
I hesitate. Any discussion?
Yes. One, I'm absolutely proud of the department, and thank you for doing your job and having an investigation and going through it. Thank you all, and I want to thank the staff for their hard work in doing this, right? As a father that has 2 girls, I think it's just unacceptable for them to be put in a situation where, they could be harassed, retaliated against, and smeared. Right. And I think it is unacceptable for an elected official to have harassed someone that applied for a job, to have retaliated against someone applying for a job, and to have smeared somebody when they went and tried to get another job. I think it is just unacceptable to have sexual harassment happen at HCD or any school district. I think it's unacceptable. And as a parent, as someone that has 2 girls, as someone that has 2 sisters, and someone that has a wife, I will not tolerate this. This is just, it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong, and censure's not enough. The guy needs to resign. I do not want to serve on a board with a pervert. Mike Wolf, you need to resign. You're a pervert.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstains?
I move we adjourn.
Motion has been made to adjourn. Seconded by Michael Wolf. All in favor? Raise your hand. All opposed? Same sign. Okay. That as a, wait a second. Wait, don't leave. Okay. As of 6:13, we are adjourned. And now I'm going to reconvene a really quick meeting that was posted. The Harris County Department of Education School of Trustees will, at a called meeting on February 27th, immediately following adjournment of the HCDE regular board meeting, which is scheduled for 1 p.m. Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order, and it is 6:13. Consider and possible vote for establishing workshop meetings to discuss agenda items and potential agenda items ahead of the regular scheduled board meetings, and consider referring any necessary policy revisions to the policy committee. Do I have a second? I moved it. Anybody have a second? Somebody will second and I will describe what we're doing. Second. No workshop meetings. No, you.
You didn't.
Okay. Okay. The idea here is to address some of the folks in the audience that said we're having timing issues, and this will be a separate meeting where we can actually discuss items that are going to be placed on the agenda. This is similar to what all other school boards do. They have a workshop meeting, and then basically a week later they have their regular meeting, and then there's not a lot of discussion with regard to individual agenda items, and we hear from the public, and we can do our ceremonial stuff.
Discussion.
We're not asking to do that today. We're asking to just refer this to the policy committee to give us all the different ramifications, because there's a lot of moving parts in that.
Was this posted?
Yes.
Was anybody told about it? I didn't know about it.
It was posted. It was.
We didn't.
I was trying to put it on the agenda.
We didn't get an email.
I was trying to put it on the agenda, and she said this is the way we have to do it, because it wasn't on the agenda within 12 days or something like that.
Well,
I believe Ms. Smith sent an email out. Did you?
You did?
Again, yeah. This has been posted.
It was legally posted.
It's legally posted. Here's the deal: is that we're not doing anything other than recommending, basically creating a policy committee so that they can work out the details with regard to workshops for our.
My objection is this: did anybody besides me not know about it, Michael? I didn't know about it. Yeah, so I think we ought to just table this, and you can get give us some kind of an explanation of what you're wanting to do.
I have a motion to table. Is there a second? Second and motion. Any discussion? All in favor of tabling, raise your hand. All opposed? Okay.
Move for adjournment.
So moved. Second by Danny Norris. We're out of here.